Hi guys. This video was pretty delayed. I almost lost motivation and I've just been really busy. But I'm bouncing back now, so yay. I haven't made a video in almost a year, but I want to get back on track and make more. Anywho, if you're new here, hi. My name's Vin, but you can call me Playa. I like drawing, writing, music, and expressing my opinions. I plan to make more commentary videos like this in the future. They will mostly revolve around controversy or art or just anything that interests me. I like making these videos, and I hope you can enjoy them too. Now with that out of the way, let's get into it. Alright, so what even is this disorder? Narcissistic personality disorder is categorized by the following symptoms: an unreasonably high sense of self-importance, a need for admiration, sensitivity to criticism, apathy, manipulation, exploitation to get what they want, impulsivity, aka difficulty controlling emotions or behavior, and general insecurity. The root cause of this disorder is unknown and complex, but it is mainly due to childhood trauma such as severe emotional neglect. Now, these symptoms might sound alarming at first, but hopefully I'll be able to explain this in a way where you can view the disorder neutrally rather than negatively. The way this disorder represents itself for each person is different, so it may or may not be obvious to you at first. There are two main phenotypes describing this. One is overt narcissism, where the symptoms are so aggressive to the point it is obvious to those around them, compared to covert, where it's more based on their insecurity and vulnerability, and it's internalized. It may not be obvious at first. Not everyone will entirely fit into these types, and most narcissists are in between the two. But also, I'd like to note, the personality disorder will obviously have an influence on our personality. I mean, it's in the name. But we are still our own people with our own thoughts and actions. We are still in control of ourselves, so it isn't an excuse for anything, but these behaviors wouldn't be here without the illness. The reason this is important is because the stereotype that every narcissist is some big evil person in power is harmful and just wrong. Anybody can have the personality disorder. You might have the perceived notion that narcissists are scary or harmful, but if anything, they're more scared of you. They can be victims in situations as well. I've noticed this with BPD stereotypes too. Don't get me wrong, every cluster B disorder has stigmatization, but borderlines have been watered down, a traumatized victim, manic pixie dream girls, or obsessive yanderes, and they're the oh-so-poor victims to the narcissist. This might be shocking to some of you, but borderlines can definitely be abusive to narcissists. It's actually very common, but you don't hear about it as often because of how social media boxes these disorders into these weird caricatures. What I notice with the stigmatization around this disorder is that it is almost impossible for people to view it as another trauma-induced disorder, but rather a separate thing entirely that automatically makes you an abuser. Now, let me be clear, I don't think we should demonize this disorder. However, I can see why people would assume the worst of it. I will acknowledge that it is not uncommon for us to act out in harmful ways, as that is just bound to happen with the symptoms that we have. Apathy is an extremely prominent thing that blinds us from what is right or wrong, so we may end up being insensitive or harmful without even realizing it. And if people call us out, we believe they are stupid for doing so, because we can't see the error in our own action. I'll explain this in a bit, but I need you to understand, it is truly a coping mechanism to be this way, as it is with almost every cluster B disorder. It is truly different for everyone, so some people may be more difficult to deal with, and I understand. And I wouldn't blame you for having a negative view if you had a bad experience with someone who's had this disorder or has these traits. But it is never good to generalize, and that is the main reason why we need to encourage help, so that not only the narcissist will stop hurting others, but also heal themselves in the process. The stigma does absolutely nothing good in the end but push more conceptions, and that if you meet anyone with this disorder, you should treat them as shittily as possible. That is just never right. Now, I'm gonna try to put this into perspective for you. You know how dissociative identity disorder develops by severe trauma? The whole purpose of the disorder is to shield you from further possible harm, using alters and amnesia as such, since the body and mind have been damaged so badly to the point they need some form of protection and coping to stay alive. And since the trauma took away physical and mental needs, it's going to search for it in other ways. With every cluster B disorder, including NPD, it has the same functionality, just differing symptoms. The need for admiration, ignorance, pride, apathy, all of it, is our brain's way of protecting us from the trauma that we face that made us believe we are nothing. So, in order to be something, in order to be protected, we must do certain things. Back to what I was saying about apathy, I know that there's the saying, well, you don't need apathy to recognize something is morally wrong, and this is true for the most part, but it just isn't that easy. Yes, we can recognize things as morally wrong, but it is complicated due to the way we perceive the world. We can practice cognitive empathy, where we can act out ways of empathy rather than having to feel it, like acknowledging something or someone is hurt without needing the ability to empathize with them. It's important so that we can feel human and we can be treated as human. Being seen as monsters or abusers all the time makes it harder for us to want to get help, due to stigma shunning us so badly, and instead just makes us want to hide. Showing care and compassion does wonders when dealing with a mentally ill individual, whether or not you personally think that they deserve it. If we are being disrespected, it makes it even harder for us to want to gain any sort of empathy or understanding. I understand if the person in question has committed heinous crimes, but if not, then most of the time we just need to be talked to, and hopefully we won't redo our wrongdoing once we can see it for ourselves. There's another misconception that we're emotionless beings. Yes, emptiness and apathy plays a huge role. I myself deal with emptiness and it fucking sucks. But that does not mean we cannot feel at all. If anything, we can feel things way too intensely, which is why we end up driving out of control and doing things impulsively, or just the opposite, we don't care at all. But we are not heartless. Loving and caring for others is not impossible, but it is a challenge. We have a thing similar to FPs, aka favorite persons, which is something that people with borderline have. It's called exceptional people. It may be people that are especially close to us, not just friends, but best friends or partners. Again, it isn't hard to form connections, but maintaining healthy and honest ones is. We struggle to be vulnerable because it makes us feel unsafe, not because we're trying to be liars or hide anything. Also, I am so sick and tired of people slapping on the label narcissist to anyone they dislike or anyone who's a bad person, even when the symptoms don't even apply to them. This is not only harmful and further stigmatizes the disorder, but it's genuinely misinformative as hell and just fucking stupid. It's like calling everyone you dislike a borderline or autistic or any other disorder. You see how that doesn't make sense? They do not treat other disorders like this. It's absolutely insane to me how this term has been thrown around like a beach ball time and time again due to the stigma and misinformation spread around worldwide. No, Becky, your slightly shitty asshole of an ex is not a narcissist. Let's stop misusing this word and educate ourselves, please. Don't armchair diagnose people either. If you are genuinely suspecting that someone has the disorder, make sure you've done research and it actually applies to the said person. But even then, just avoid calling people narcissists altogether, because it really just spreads the stigma. I'd like to end this video on more of a positive note, since I got a little heated talking about this. Like I always say, peace, love, and respect is my stance, and you should respect others too, or at least try to. There's too much hate in this world right now. I appreciate you for watching until the end, and I'll see you next time.